Shalom Havarim, James Trim here, and today I want to address a controversial topic, and that is the question of whether the Messiah can be a individual who has died. Can the Messiah be an individual who has fulfilled the prophecies concerning, for example, um, the Messiah ben Yosef, but not yet fulfilled the grandiose prophecies of Messiah ben David? Um, is it possible that such a person is the Messiah? Is it possible that the Messiah is resurrected to complete his work? And I want to demonstrate this using the Talmud. And unlike some, I I don't use I don't do this sort of cafeteria style pulling Talmudic passages out of context. So I want to give context to the passage we're going to be using. There is a handout for this study on the resurrected Messiah, and you'll get information on where to get that handout in the video description if you're watching on YouTube. So the way the Talmud works, for those who do not know, is that the core of the Talmud is the Mishnah, and the Mishnah is uh, the. Well, I don't want to go into a full explanation of what the Mishnah is right now. That's a whole different study. But then you have the Gemara, which is the commentary to the Mishnah. And so we have a passage in Mishnah in Tractate Sanhedrin, cha- uh, 10:1, and this passage is it's in the Sanhedrin because it enters into a portion of Sanhedrin that's talking about, by the topic of Sanhedrin, the courts, the halakhic courts, and one of the things that's significant or important in the halakhic courts is question near and dear, common question: who is a Jew, basically. Um, so it starts out and it says, all Israelites have a share in the world to come. Okay, that's a simple enough statement. And then a little bit further down, it says, and these are the ones who have no part in the world to come. So if all Israel has a part in the world to come, by the way, this is very similar to a passage in Romans 10, all Israel shall be saved. All Israel have a share in the world to come. Then, if we have some definitive lists of people that don't have a share in the world to come, we could say that they're not true Israel, truly Israelites. And so this says, and there's a list of criteria, and one of them is, these are those who have no part in the world to come. He who says the resurrection of the dead is a teaching which is not derived from the Torah. Now there's others, but this is the first one, and this is the one that's significant here. It's addressing the Sadducees who did not believe in an afterlife, but it basically says, hey, if you don't believe in the resurrection of the dead, you don't believe in an afterlife, you don't believe in the resurrection, you're an apostate and you're not a true Jew. It's outside the scope of what is Judaism. So the Gemara to this statement in Sanhedrin starts on page, in the Babylonian Talmud, on page 90a, and it runs all the way through page 99a. Starting around page 97a, in fact, starting on page 97a, the topic transitions, as not uncommon in the Talmud, to a discussion of the Messiah. And in fact, pages 97a through 99a are talking about the time that the Messiah will come, but there's just a lot of discussion of the Messiah. And they contain a lot of passages that are used, sometimes cherry picked. I don't like to cherry pick. I like to put things in context um, uh, in Messianic apologetics. But I want to address the transition point really. Uh, on page 97a, there's a passage that really kind of serves as the transition from talking about the resurrection and the doctrine of the resurrection to the Messiah and the timing of the coming of the Messiah. And this passage on 97a says, Rabbi Nachman said to Rabbi Isaac, have you heard when Bar Nephel will come? Who is Bar Nephel? He asked. Messiah, he answered. Do you call Messiah Bar Nephel? Even so, he rejoined, as it is written, in that day I will raise up the tabernacle of David, ha noflet, which is fallen. The fallen one. Amos chapter 9, verse 11. This is in the Gemara, Babylonian Talmud, page 97a. Okay, so this passage of Gemara identifies the Messiah as the tabernacle of David that is fallen in Amos 9:11. That's very, very, very significant. There is if we look earlier in Amos 5:2, I believe it is, it says, the virgin of Israel is fallen. She shall no more rise. She is forsaken upon her land. There is none to raise her up. And so this is personifying Israel. Now there is, and I can do a whole video on it, a relationship, an allegorical relationship, a typological relationship between the Messiah and Israel. But we can see that even without going through that whole process right here. Because here, Rabbi Nachman is telling us that the figure spoken of in Amos 9:11 as the tabernacle of David is the Messiah. And in Amos 5:2, we can see that that is the personification of Israel as well. There's this allegorical relationship. This is also seen in the Zohar. The Zohar several times references Amos 9:11, and I'm not going to go over all of those because there's so many of them. Universally, in all of them in the Zohar, Amos 9:11, the tabernacle of David is identified with the Shekinah, and therefore with the Sephirah of Malkut. And that kind of makes sense for us in our understanding here, because Malkut is the expression of the Sephirot in this world, which is perfectly fitting. In the Zohar, Volume 1, page 72b, we read, the Jews said to him, this is what my father told me as he was departing the world. Do not expect the footsteps of Messiah until his rainbow appears in the world adorned in radiant colors. The world resplendent, then expect Messiah. How do we know? For it is written, I see her to remember the everlasting covenant. Now, when she appears in dim colors, and to remember uh, means to the flood will not, so that the flood will not return. But in that time, she will appear in radiant colors, adorned in her finery. Then to remember the everlasting covenant, the blessed Holy One will remember his covenant who lies in exile and raise her from the dust. As it is written, they shall seek Yahweh their Elohim, uh, Yahweh their God, and David their king. Hosea 3:5. And similarly, they will serve Yahweh their God and raise their God and David their king, whom I will raise from them. Jeremiah 30, verse 9, whom I will raise from the dust, as it is written, I will raise the fallen tabernacle of David. Amos 9:11, so I will see her to remember the everlasting covenant, to raise her from the dust. And the Father said this, therefore, the redemption of Israel and her remembrance are mentioned here in the Torah, as it is written, I swore that the waters of Noah would never again cover the earth, so I swear not to be angry with you or rebuke you. Isaiah 54:9. Okay, so we have here uh, the in Amos 9:11 that the tabernacle of David is the it's effectively the body of the tabernacle. A tabernacle is allegorically a body. We're a tabernacle for our souls, for our narn, our nefesh, ruach, and neshoma. We are a tabernacle for our souls and for our spiritual selves. And as such, then the Messiah is the tabernacle, the body of the Messiah is the tabernacle of the Davidic Messiah, not literally David, but the Mashiach ben David, whom David allegorically symbolizes. Now, in the Zohar, David allegorically symbolizes Malkut, which is associated with Shekinah and with the Bat Zion, and Bat Zion is the daughter of Zion, and the uh, Israel, because there is this personification, this allegorical relationship between the Messiah and Israel. And the Messiah is thus the Mashiach ben David when he is raised up, the tabernacle of David. So we have here, now when it says, I will raise up, remember the Zohar said raise up from the dust. And the context here, remember I said I like to take the Gemara in context of the Mishnah to which it is commenting. This portion of Gemara is commenting on the Mishnah passage that's talking about that says he who says the resurrection of the dead is a teaching which is not derived from the Torah has no part in the world to come and therefore is not part of Am Yisrael in the strictest sense of the word. So this is when it says talks about I will raise up the tabernacle of David, it is talking about a resurrection. Um, so when it says I will raise up the tabernacle of David, which is the fallen, it is talking about the resurrection of the Messiah who has died. Now, this idea is not new. This application is not new to Rabbi Nachman. First of all, if we take the Zohar at face value, the Zohar is from the period of the Tanim, in its core at least. And so this idea also, though, however, goes back all the way back to the Essenes of the Dead Sea Scrolls in 4Q174, 4Q174, column 3, lines 12 through 13 of that document. It says, I shall raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, Amos 9:11. This passage describes the fallen branch of David, whom he shall raise up to deliver Israel. So there's absolutely no question here that this Qumran document sees this as the Messiah, the branch of David that delivers Israel. There's no question. It's talking about the Messiah, and it is talking about the Messiah as a resurrected. He's resurrected to deliver Israel. He dies first. He's fallen, and then he's resurrected to deliver Israel. Um, and therefore, also, since we see that the Messiah is the personification of Israel, we see this, the typological personification of Israel. We just saw this, by the way, very clear in Amos. If you connect, all you have to do, even without the Zohar and the Talmud, if we accept that this is speaking about the Messiah in Amos 9:11, and we've shown enormous evidence of that, if we connect Amos 9:11 quite obviously to Amos 5:2, then in Amos 5:2 it is Israel that has fallen, that is raised back up, and Am Yisrael. And so this brings us to Hosea chapter 6, verses 1 through 2. Come and let us return unto Yahweh, for he has torn and he will heal us. He has smitten and he will bind us. After 2 days he will revive us. On the third day he will raise us up that we may live in his presence. Hosea 6, 1 through 2. This passage is telling us not only that the Messiah dies and then is resurrected to the role of Mashiach ben David as the tabernacle of David to deliver Israel. Here we are finding that he does this on the third day. He's resurrected on the third day. Um, there's another passage also, uh, Psalm 16:10, for you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, neither will you suffer your righteous one to see the pit. Um, but let's go back to Hosea 6, 1 through 2 briefly. You know, um, when the when the Rebbe Schneerson passed away, I had friends that were in Chabad at the time that I talked to just I remember it was that day or the day afterward. And they were convinced at the time that the Rebbe would be they were fully expected that the Rebbe would be resurrected on the third day. And they quoted this passage of Hosea to me. And I was shocked because I'm like, this is the passage we use. But now you know why we use it, because if you look at the Peshat of Hosea, it's talking about Israel, but if you understand the the meaning of the allegorical relationship with Israel and this raising up of the tabernacle of David in Amos 9:11 in context of Amos 5:2, but you understand that Amos 9:11 is speaking of the Messiah, and this was universally understood by our fathers because it's not only found in the Talmud, uh, taught by Rabbi Nachman, it is also found in the Dead Sea Scrolls in 4Q174, as taught by the Essenes. So it was widely understood that the tabernacle of David that would be raised up is the Messiah. Okay, that's it. This is a shorter video than many, short and sweet, to get the point across. I do want to remind everybody to please donate to support this work. We can't do it without you. This is a joint effort, um, and I need your help to continue doing it. And you can donate by PayPal to donations at wnae.org, and there will be a link to donate in the uh, uh, video description. All right, shalom, everybody. Love you so much, and thank you all for your support and for making these videos possible and for making it possible to share the knowledge that Elohim and the studies that Elohim have made available to me in my lifetime. Uh, uh, to share them all with you. All right. Shalom, everybody. And I'm making this video on a Friday, so Shabbat Shalom. And I will see you next time.